So, you're looking to improve in composition. You could be a complete beginner and be overwhelmed with the different tutorials and guides and may not necessarily know where to start. You could even have a bit of knowledge and experience in composition but still feel lost and not feel too confident in what you do know. But what if I told you there's something you're missing? Something that is crucial to understand in composition, and understanding it connects all the dots. What up YouTube, it's your boy Double M and I'm coming back at you with a video on learning composition. Before we start anyway, let's go through some things to fully understand what it is we're doing here. My guess is you probably came here with the mindset that composition is just one of the however many art fundamentals there are. But let's snap out of that mindset just for a bit. Composition, the act or process of composing, specifically arrangement into specific proportion or relation, and especially into artistic form. Looking at this, there is more to the term composition. It's not just thought of in the context of visual art, but also in that of other art forms, writing, poetry, music, etc. Turns out that person with a stick in front of the choir or orchestra was actually doing something. I thought they were just there busy with shenanigans and tomfoolery. I mean, it's in their title. Who would have thought, man? But let's zoom out a bit more, because there's more to this term. The nature of something's ingredients or constituents, the way in which a whole or mixture is made up. Looking at this definition, we can see how those in the world of science and laboratory experiments also do a little bit of composing themselves. But let's zoom out even further, because even in the normal world, we all compose on some level. What do you think it means when someone tells you to maintain your composure? One thing we need to understand about composition is that it's an arrangement, a structure, an organization. Things and pieces are put together in a way for a specific reason. When people watch tutorials on composition and see how the tutorial places these guides and diagrams on pictures from nature, some people make the mistake of thinking that anywhere you turn in nature, you'll see some Da Vinci tier composition, when some, to most of the times, there ain't really none special to what you're seeing. Or maybe that's just me, I don't know. So when studying the good examples that do come from nature, we need to understand we're not just mimicking nature. We're studying how nature makes something look interesting. We're studying how to make something look interesting. In art, we ultimately want to grab the attention of our audience. To compose in art is to arrange and organize in a way that directs focus and grabs attention. Composition in art is not reality, but the design of perception. As broad as the topic of composition is, there's obviously more than one way of thinking when composing, when making something look interesting. This is seen in the many composition types when learning composition, and as a beginner can seem like a bit much. But for this video, we're just going to focus on what's known as the rule. So basically, the rule of thirds is one of the ways you can arrange and position your subjects in your illustration to make it look more interesting. You imagine a grid on your canvas dividing it 3 ways, both vertically and horizontally. And these 4 points of the intersection is where you'd put your subjects in the illustration. Subconsciously, what happens is placing something on one of these points takes the thirds of the canvas and puts it in some sort of ratio, with a side of the canvas feeling larger or heavier than the other side with these visual masses. Because it's thirds we're busy with here, the ratio is 1 to 2. Why this works over having the weight of your canvas feel more equally divided in a 1-to-1 ratio is because subconsciously we focus more on things that are outside of the norm. As creatures focused on survival, there's a level of interest as well as there is a level of potential fear that comes from the unknown. As it is more intriguing, it is also better for our survival that we know about something than it is to not know about something. So subconsciously, we focus on things that are abnormal. We focus on things that stand out and threaten to disrupt the harmony in a particular environment. This is the basic definition of contrast, something that is crucial to composition. What the rule of thirds helps us do is to compose an illustration that shows a level of contrast by playing around with the thirds of the canvas. This doesn't mean you have to make sure that it's divided into thirds exactly. Don't think you need a ruler or a calculator. No, put them down. Put them down. No one's actually going to come up to your illustration and be like, no, this isn't 1 to 2. This is 1.618. No, shut up. A good rule of thumb I like to follow is that as long as it feels like a third of what's going on the canvas is different from the other 2/3, I'm Gucci. And things don't feel 1 to 1. So I don't always stick to that 1 to 2 ratio exactly, just as long as it feels that way. I can even mess around with that random number that was given earlier and put it in the ratio 1 to 1.618. Wait, hold on, isn't that the golden? Some of you may be wondering, why are we talking about the golden ratio in a video about the rule of thirds? To you I say, shh. Don't worry about it too much. You're gonna see how this all adds up, trust. You see, a lot of people will say the golden ratio is another guide that is used to help in arranging when composing. It's that spiral thing in a lot of those tutorials. But what do you really know about the golden ratio? The golden ratio is shown in something that is called the golden rectangle, where when cutting this rectangle, you have two shapes with their sides being in that ratio. If you take a closer look, you'll find that with the ratio 1 to 1.618, this side is to that what this side is to the whole rectangle side. If you take a closer look, you'll see that the smaller rectangle of the two shapes is another golden rectangle, where cutting it in the exact same ratio leaves another two shapes, where this is to that what that is to that. Continuing to do that as you spiral inwards, you'll find the diagram people show when talking about the golden ratio, not only in some compositions of the greats before us, but in a lot of nature as well. It's observing this arrangement where the golden ratio was discovered. Those that know a little bit of the golden ratio may also know of the Fibonacci sequence created by Fibonacci and its relation to the golden ratio. But doing a little research for this video, I learned that the sequence and the ratio are similar, not the same. Fibonacci didn't come up with the golden ratio. It said that the golden ratio was discovered by ancient Greek mathematicians. I don't know about you, but this is way too similar. I wonder who stole whose homework. I also wonder what else ancient Greek thinkers would think about, would talk about, would discuss.
Like underwater we can't breathe. Fish can't breathe.
So it's opposite.
So that's a very solid question. Do they see? Because we can't see
air. But can a fish see air?
Oh!
Now see, here's the reason why I bring up the golden ratio. Earlier I spoke about what the rule of thirds does to an illustration. The positioning of a subject helps us feel the difference of the visual masses on the illustration, with one mass taking up roughly a third and the other mass taking up roughly the other 2/3, being the ratio 1 to 2. I pointed out how it doesn't have to be exactly to the exact decimal point 1 to 2, leaving perfect measurements of thirds as long as there is a good amount of contrast between these visual masses. By this logic, yes, it can even be other ratios like 1 to 5 or 1 to 25, but the one that visually works most of the time is a ratio that is closest to the golden rule of thumb, the golden ratio. Saying what I just said, what if I told you that there is more to just the rule of thirds than it just being a composition grid guideline? The idea is that we should have contrast between our visual masses, where one mass feels almost twice as big as the other. The golden ratio isn't too far from the ratio that comes from the rule of thirds. The only difference is that spiral thing. But looking a bit closer, we can see the alignment of different objects or an object on that spiral thing. And comparing what isn't in alignment to what is, we see somewhat of a ratio in visual masses. The golden ratio and other composition grid guidelines are used to position our visual masses, with most of the time one visual mass being twice as big as the other. It's not always the fixed ratio of 1 to 2 as long as there is contrast between these visual masses, but whatever guideline you use, most of the time you're playing around with thirds. Me personally, this is something that clicked after watching the great Artwad's video of the rule of thirds in composition, and there's a reason why I talk on the golden ratio as well, even though I stress more on the rule of thirds and playing around with thirds. The rule of thirds as a guide is the first step into the mentality of thirds, and the golden ratio is what connects the dots, showing how it and other guides essentially play around with thirds. Remember, this isn't a one-all be-all rule that you should only follow. You don't have to follow it like scripture. There are many times where rules can be broken and interesting compositions are still made. But not only is this a mentality to start with as a beginner, this is a mentality that works most of the time. So, let's go over what I want you guys to take away from this video. When composing, you are making something interesting. Whatever goal it may be, the main goal is to grab attention and focus to whatever it is you're creating. There are many ways to compose an art piece, but what's important when composing is having contrast in your art piece to have something stand out in a way. The easiest composition guide to use as a beginner is the rule of thirds. But remember, it's not just a composition grid guideline, but also the gateway to understanding the real rule of thirds. Whatever way you align and organize your visual masses on your drawings, the idea is that you should have these visual masses in contrast, with one being roughly twice as big as the other, with one being roughly twice as small as the other. Not exactly, but roughly. The many guides that are out there are many ways of organizing your masses. So when watching other composition tutorials and learning more on composition, learning more on these composition grid guidelines, keep this in mind, and the fact that each composition guideline is used for a specific goal. You use this one when you're trying to make something look like this. You use that when you're trying to make something look like that, for example. You know what I'm saying? If you want me to break down the other composition grid guidelines, let me know down in the comments if you want a video like that. Let me also know down in the comments if you enjoyed this video, if you liked this video, if you thought I was just talking rubbish, if you thought I was just yapping. You know, this is something that personally clicked for me, so it may not be one size fit all, you know what I'm saying? While you guys are down there, make sure to drop a like if you did enjoy the video, and hit the subscribe button if you have not, to join the Double Empire. Make sure to watch my other tutorials, my other videos if you have not. But for now, God bless, and until next time, Double M out.